Welcome to macro code, and today we are going to learn about custom user management in ASP.NETCORE MVC with identity. So for today's video, we are going to go in depth and understand the functionalities you can achieve with the help of Microsoft Identity. So we'll build a small practical implementation of custom user management in ASP.NET MVC with identity. So today we'll learn about basics of identity, adding custom identity properties, seeding default users and roles, role management, assigning roles to users, and even much more. So we'll begin with creating a new application, that is setting up the ASP.NET Core MVC application. So we'll start with create a new project. Then in our templates, we are going to use ASP.NET Core Web App Model View Controller. Then we'll name our application as, let's call it a student's application. Then next, so on this page, we are going to create we are going to have an authentication type with individual accounts. So change this to individual accounts, then have it as it is now, then proceed. So we are using .NET 7.0 that is under STS currently. So then we'll create our project. So then our project will be created. So if we just run this project, we should be able to have it running. So let's see and wait. Good. So you can see our project is running. So we can actually alter this name to students application. If you want to change the name, you can come to views, then a shared, then a layout. So under layout, you will see the title here. So you can actually give it as students application system. You can give it, you can create a project that you want, then you can give it the name. So that is it. So we need to scaffold the identity UI. So in order to modify the existing identity, Visual Studio actually allows you to generate the identity pages. So you can achieve this by right-clicking the project here, then say new, add new, then there is a new scaffolded item. So if you do that, then you should be able to choose identity on your right, on your left-hand side. You will see identity, then add. So on the dialog that appears, we'll select the identity and click add. Then you will be presented with the form containing over 50 options to select. So these are the Razor Pages versions of the identity UI. So here you can choose the fields that you want to add to your projects. You can see we have these UIs. So for now, we can actually select all, so that you're able to see how we will be using them. Then on our data context class, you will choose application DB context. That is it. Then you click add. So this will be able to add all the UIs, that is the Razor Pages, in the areas folder. It will create a folder called areas. You can see we have the areas folder here. So these are the files that act as the default identity UI. So moving further, we are going to learn about customizing the identity to match our requirements. So this is actually the default scaffolding. So it will give us all the Razor Pages. So it is done. So if you come to areas, then you will see there is a folder called identity. And if you go to identity, you will see now we have the pages. So if you click drop down, it will have account. So under this account, this is where now we have all the Razor Pages that we have scaffolded. So it is actually showing us all the login, the forgot password confirmation. You are able to register a user with all the fields. So So the next thing that you are going to do, we are going to add migrations for the identity table, generate a default DB context, register the DB context in our startup. That is, we are using .NET 7, so we don't have the startup .cs class. So if you are using .NET 5 and below, we will have the startup.cs class. But for us, we have the program.cs class. So one thing that we need to do, we need first to have the app settings.json pointed to our database. So I have an already connection to our database. So I'll just do this. I'll copy that. You'll forgive me for that. That will go faster. So you can actually do the same. Or even on our if you come to our app settings, let me just, so this is our app settings that is already generated. So our server, I'll just put in my local server. So I'm using SQL Express Edition. Then the database, we can call it students demo. So we'll call it students demo. So the rest, I think, should be fine. So I'll just put in this one, trust server certificate, so that you don't have the issues with the SSL issues. So that is it. So this is our connection to the server, to our database. So what we need to do now is we need to register our application DB context. So if you come to program.cs, we should be able to find that the service has been added. You see the connection string, it will get the connection from the app settings. Then the application DB context is actually registered, and the identity user is also registered. Then we should be fine. So the next thing that we need to do is to add the migrations. So you come to tools, then Nugget package manager. Then on the package manager, you should be able to see a window, console window down below. So here we are going to add, so I don't know if we have the database first. Let's do this. Let's create this database on our SQL. So you see we don't have that database. So you can come here, new database, then students demo, then we create it. So we have our database here. So you can create it using the SQL, that is Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, or you can use a script. So it depends on how you like it. So we will add the migration. So to add the migration, we use the add migration command. Add migration, then we say initial. So this is the migration name, initial migrations. Then press enter. So this one should generate a folder for migrations and actually generate the SQL commands. You can see we have a folder for. So let's see. So that is it. So let's do update database. We see what it will happen. So it is creating the initial commands. You can see it is done. So if we come to our students demo, we should have the initial setups of our identity. So if we refresh the students demo table, then come to tables, you should be able to see the default tables of ASP.NET Core identity. So we have the EF migrations, which stores the migrations. So you can see we have the initial, the create identity schema. So this is the first migration. Then we have the ASP.NET roles, which it will be storing the roles. We have the user claims and the application users. So these application users has the default fields. So we'll be able to see how we can extend these fields. So that is the first thing that we have done. So the next thing that we need to do is we can actually go to the application DB context. Assuming we want to add another table that is not part of these, you can see these are default ASP.NET tables. So if we want to add another field, so I'll just add like students details. So another class here called student. So we can have our class there. Then on these students, we can have our properties, ID. Then we can copy these. We have some fields. So these we can have a string. So currently in .NET 7, you can do required before then you can say these will be first name. Then you can also do required. Then you can do string. String. Then you can say middle name. You can also do required. Then you can also do string. Then last name. You can also do required. Then string, email address for the student. So that is it. So we can actually work with these columns. So if we have done this, so for us to have this table in our database, we'll come to application DB context. So where is our application DB context? Under migrations, under data, then application DB context. So the folder that was created by our migrations command is here. So you can see we have the migration. So it will be tracking all the migrations that we generate. So it has created our application DB context. Here we have. So to have our database, so we'll do public DB set. Then we supply our model, which is a student. Then we give the name of the table. Then that is it. So we have added this field to our database, our application DB context. So to add this to our database, we'll come to tools again, Nugget package manager console. Then you say add migration. Then you say student. So this is the name of the migration. Details. Details. So if you press enter, it will generate the migrations file. You'll see on this other side, we have the students details file has been generated. So this file actually create an SQL statement commands that you are going to use it. So you can see it will create a table called students with fields, ID, first name, middle name, last name, and email address. Then we have our primary key as students with ID. So to update our database, you use the command update database. Then you press enter. So it will generate that command, table on our database. You can see these are the commands. So if you come to the students demo table database and refresh it, we should be able to see the table students. You see we have that table students. So if you select it, you will be able to see the fields, the ID, first name, middle name, last name, and the email address. So that is how you add the fields to our ASP.NET application. So there is another thing that we need to do. So assuming we want to change these tables, you see these tables, ASP.NET role claims, ASP.NET roles, assuming these names kind of not clear, or you want to have them renamed. So how do we do that? So we are going to generate, we are going to modify our default ugly names, that is for the identity tables. And to do this, we'll come to our application DB context here. Then we need to create something here. We need to create something here called protected, then override. So we are going to override it. Then void, then we see this on creating, you just tap it on model creating. So once we have done that, we need to now use so if you're new to this channel, consider watching something we did with Fluent APIs. So you'll be able to understand what we are doing. So check on that video. Remember to subscribe and even like our video so that we keep posting more videos. So what we need to do, we will use a builder. dot has default schema, then we'll say you put in now the identity. So this is the schema that you want to start working on. So we'll say builder dot entity. So we need to now use the identity user. So we want to change the user for the identity user. So then this one, we want to say the identity user, we say entity should be, we do this, then we say entity dot to table. So we want to name it to table. So that table should be, we say name, you provide the name of the table. We say the identity user table to be called, sorry, so this should be a string. So we call it user. Let's call it user. Then we close this. So this one, so we should do this, something we should do here. We do this, then here we close with this, then here we do this. We should be fine. Actually, we can even return this here so that it's clear. Yes. Then we do this. So it will rename the identity user to user. So we can also do another one. We can copy this and we say we want to rename the identity role. Identity. So we are renaming the ugly identity user tables to what we want. So on the identity role, we want to call it a role. We can also do, let's do this here. We can also do another one. We want to rename identity user role. Identity user role. So we want to rename it to, so this one we should do this string so that it accepts. Then we want to name it user roles. User roles. So what is wrong with our identity? We say identity user, then a string. Yeah, we should close this. So that is fine. Then we want also to rename the claims table. So you see these tables that we have here. ASP.NET, ASP.NET. So we want to have it as a to rename them. So we will have identity user claim. So we want to call it user claims. Then we want to do identity user login. Identity user login. Identity user login. Then we can call it user logins. Another thing that you need to do is identity role claim. Identity role claim. Identity. Then you can call these role claims. Then our last thing is the identity user. Identity user token. So identity user token, we call these user tokens. So that is it. So our schema is now set for the database. So to rename this, we can actually now add another migration. So come to Nugget Package Manager. So remember, migrations are the one that will help us affect our database. So we can say migration. Then we will say renaming identity table names. So these will be our names. So we can have this as a one keyword because it will generate something like this, which is long. Then we can press enter. So it should be able to create another. You can see renaming identity file. So it is saying it will be dropping these tables, then actually now doing renaming them. So to update the database, we can do update, then database. So these are the two commands that you must actually know. So it will be running the commands. Let's wait. It is done. So if we come to our students demo and we refresh, come to the tables, there we are. So we have actually added, it will be identity.role, identity.role names, identity.students, identity.user. So you can do that. You can, in case you want to change this to maybe have something like students dot. So if you come to our application DB context, so every this table that you have created will be having this initial schema. But in case you want to have it as maybe DBO, you can also do that. So it will be dbo.user, dbo.role, dbo.user roles. So we can change that. We see add migration, renaming tables. Then you press enter. It will generate another file. You can see. Then update database. Press enter. It's done. So if we refresh our tables, it will be dbo.students. You can see dbo.role, dbo.role claims, dbo.students, dbo. So all the tables will be having these default schema string. So that is how you do that. So we have done that. So if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing, share our videos, and even recommending new topics. So the next thing that you are going to do, which is very interesting, is adding custom fields to our identity user table. So when you run this table for the identity user, which we now call it user, so if you see, we have the username, email, normalized email, email confirm, password, hash. So assuming we want to have this table to have something like first name, middle name, those things. So how do you do that? So if you go through the identity user table, you can find as like almost 15 columns that are default. So if we want to do that, we will come to our code. Then let's create another class just on our models. Let's create it and we call it application user, which is actually, sorry. Let me we call it application user. Let me remove that. We call it application user. Application user. So this will be our abstract class. So what we need to do, it will be inheriting another details from the identity. So you can do that, identity user. So that is it. So inside this application user, this is where now we are going to add our fields that we want to appear on the identity user class. So we'll do string first name. So that is it. You can do last name. Then you can copy these also. Then we do, we can say middle name, then last name. Then we can also do email. We can say what another thing that you can do, ID number. So this will be int. We can say ID number. We can also do another thing we called, let's say we want a profile, so we can do byte. Then we can have this as profile picture. So for the user, so remember this is a default user table. So we can also do, let's have it here. You can also do primary or mobile phone number. Can also do as something. You can have it as so this will be int. That's fine. You can have a string. Then we say we want physical address. Physical. So you can have physical address. So this one will be one word. So these are the fields that we have added to our application user. So we are now extending the identity user class with our own properties. So this is what we have done. So you have created a model called application user and an inherit identity user. So we have added the properties. So since we have decided to change the default user class from the identity user to our application user, so what we need to do, we'll come to our application DB context, not application DB context. We'll come to our, we call it program.cs. So if you come to program.cs, you'll find that our default identity user was identity user. So what we need to do here is now change our default class. So this is it. So we'll change here to application user. So that is the only thing that you will need to do. So that is what we have done. So the next thing that we need to do is we have actually replaced the identity user with the application user. So the next thing that we need to do is to change our application DB context. So come to application DB context. Then here on the application DB context, we say identity DB context. Then we can have application user here. So the next thing is now to add the migration. So the only two things that you'll do is actually have this here and change the program.cs file. So after that, you add migrations to affect this to our database. Add migration, then say custom application user. So if we press enter, it will generate the SQL statements and create a file called custom application user. Then we can update the database now. Update database. Press enter. It will generate the commands. Done. So if we come to our database and click refresh tables, you'll see we still have our user. So if we select this, we'll be able to see the fields that we have added. So let's see. Sorry, it is. Let's see. Yeah, so this is the user that we have added. So it will create another table called ASP.NET users. You see this one. So these ASP.NET users, we have the first name, middle name, last name, ID number, phone number, physical address, profile picture, username, normal. So it will actually now have the others that we had created. So that is it. So the now something that, sorry, I just created. So if so remember we had another table called users. You see this one, which has the same fields. So we have another one now called as ASP.NET users. So what we need to do, you see on our app, it has a table called users, and we have generated another called ASP.NET users. So we'll change these to application user. So if we do that, then you can generate another command. So we are actually renaming it. So add migration, then we say application user changes, press enter. So that is done. Then you can update our database. Done. So then if we refresh, you can see we don't have now the ASP.NET users. So all the fields that we had created is now mapped to users. So if we select this, we should be able to see that. You see, it has now on our ASP.NET users, it has added now our fields: first name, ID number, last name, middle name, phone number, physical address, profile picture. So that is how you extend that field. So let's create our application. Let's launch our application. We see. So there's something called invalid no service for ASP.NET Identity User Manager has been registered. Yes, so we have something that is quite different. So remember, we have changed our application user to identity user. Our identity user to application user. So we need to replace all these. Where there is identity user, we change it to application user. So it is not actually registering the service. So we'll come to our login, then .cs. So you see this application user, we change this to our identity user, we change this to our application user. So that is it. We also change this to application user. Then come to registration again, .cs, change this to application user, application user, application user, application user, application user, application user, application user. That is fine. Come to another thing. All these files should actually use the application user because we have altered it. Remember, we have added new fields. So we'll do that. Come also to confirmation. Do that. Do that. Do that. So everywhere there is identity user, change it to application user to incorporate all the other fields that we add. So that is it. That is it. That is it. Also change these ones. That is it. Sorry, something wrong somewhere. So this one is saying you can check this function. Yeah, can replace it with identity user. Everywhere there is so here we'll need to have application user everywhere. So here we have an issue with the identity user. Go to this function. Go to implementation. So everywhere there is identity user, we define it. So I want us to use create user. Sorry, this create user should be identity user. Should be returning identity user. Yes, so this one also should be identity user. So come here, should be identity user. The identity user. That's fine. So we are actually renaming everything to identity application user. So this is application user. Okay, we have a lot of them, so don't worry, we're going to finish them. So we'll be able to generate now to create a user. There's an error somewhere. Get email. Here we should do identity user, application user. Also there is something here. Identity user should be application user. I thought we had changed this. That's fine. Yeah, should be okay now. Register confirmation. This as well should be like that. We send email. It should be also like that. We set password. We are using identity user. This one as well. So this should be fine. So if we launch our application, we should be able to have our pages. Something wrong somewhere still. Let's just build it so that you're able to get that error. There's an error somewhere. So it's fine. So manage accounts. Yeah, I think there is an issue here. Let's do this. Also, there were so many. So that is fine. Set password. We need to add this as well. So let's do that. So that's fine. So this one we can change it. Change this. Get user. User here. Come here as well. Change this. So that is it. So you're still changing this. So we need to replace everywhere where there is identity user as application user. So we generated a lot of RESA pages. So we have to change them. So because these we have not registered identity user but application user. So That is it. So I think we should be fine. Let's try again. So there is an error. Yes, our user here. We launch our application, so can be able to see we have the register page and the login page. So assuming we want to add some details, you see we have only the email password and the confirm password. So if we do, let's say email, then password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, let me just give a password that is strong. Then register. Can see cannot insert the value null into column first name into the, so these columns that we added are actually mandatory, so we need to add those fields to our views. So we'll come to register, razor page. So we need to add the fields here. So what we need to do, so let's do this. So we need to add the fields here on our input model. So we'll just copy this. We'll copy this and paste it here. Then you can say first name. Then you can say middle name. Then you can say last name. You can actually take all the fields that we had captured on our application user. You see all these fields. We can have it here. We can have it on our register class here. Great. Then we can actually say, can define the display. Display should be name. Then we say you can call this first name. That is how it should come. Then you can come here. Then we say middle name. On our last name also we say last name. Then for ID number we can say national ID number. Then you can also do here mobile phone number. Then you can do physical address. So that is it. So when we do on register, when it posts here, we should actually do create a user. So this user that is being created here, let's see. So it will actually return the user. So what we need to do, we need to assign the values. So let's say register. So it will create the user, then user input name, then create the user details. So let's see. So on our views, we can add the username. So we can copy this here. Then we say first name. So we'll copy that here. Yeah, then you can say first name. So this one we can actually leave it as it is. You can do away with the placeholder. First name. We also do middle name. we also do last name, position should be middle name, the last name. We also have the ID number. So we have the ID number, national ID number. The autocomplete here. So that is it. You can do physical address. Physical address. Physical address. So then you can launch our application. So if we do that, then come to register, we should see our fields. You see these fields. So we can say test, and we provide the name, and just put in some keyword there. Admin 2030. Admin 2030. Then we say register. So we need to assign now our details to our user. So what we need to do, we'll come here to our register. Then on our register here, we can assign the values. You say first name is equals to first input. So we need to give it the values input dot first name. So that is it. We also need to give the email. The email address. We say the first name, middle name. Also want to put in the national ID number. We are assigning values, ID number. Then we want the physical address. We also want the physical address. So let's try. Again. Register. First name, ID number, physical address, our password. So provide a strong password. Register. So it has registered. So when we come to our DB, select a user, we should be able to see our email address, the password which is hashed, then security, then we can now see our details, the first name, middle, ID number, and all that. It is already saved. So those are the details. So as you can see, all our fields are there that we have added. So mobile phone number, I don't know if we added. Let's see, it is missing. So you can add it here. Mobile phone number. mobile phone number. So that is how you add the fields now that we had extended to our application, and you can save it. So you can see these all details are already saved. So that is how you do the extension in ASP.NET Core